Recap in minutes. In today's video, we will be enjoying a war drama film, entitled A Pilot. A Battle for Survival. There will be spoilers ahead, chill out and enjoy. The movie begins in the year 1941. Soldiers in Moscow during the start of World War II and Russia are busy prepping their weapons. Citizens have been directed to demised evacuation zones and are stocking up on supplies in preparation for an emergency. Somehow, pilot Nikolai Komlev manages to see a robbery taking place. Olga, a young woman, is being robbed by two men who hope to make off with something of value. When she yells for help, Nikolai hears her and comes to the rescue. After Nikolai shoots the thief in the shoulder, the other two men run away, leaving Olga alone. The two robbers escape as Nikolai gives chase. Olga's fear of starvation in the following days is justified, as they have access to her food stamps. Despite Nikolai's efforts, she does not want to be escorted home by him. Olga drops her handkerchief in the place where she was robbed as Nikolai is ready to follow after her. Using an Il-2 plane, Nikodim Greshnev and his co-pilot are responsible for halting the German attack on the Western Front. When Nikolai opens fire on the German tank convoy, he can easily target them. After successfully wiping out the enemy convoy with explosives, Nikodim's plane is suddenly followed by another enemy plane. Sadly, Nikodim is killed by a bullet to the face, leaving just his assistant to survive. The aircraft smashes into the mountainside before the assistant has time to escape, killing him instantly. Nikolai has seen the tragedy happen and is overwhelmed by the loss of his comrades. The three German planes go on to shoot down Nikolai's plane. Suddenly, the machine gun jammed, forcing Nikolai's helper Ivan to resort to using his handgun to take down the enemies. Nikolai manages to fire down the first plane, but there are still two more followings. Now that they've run out of gas, they'll have to make an emergency landing in enemy territory. The Germans are now chasing them as they attempt an emergency landing. Nikolai intends to launch the missile, but he is unable to release it because it is likewise jammed. Now they've landed in a remote forest. They intend to fake their deaths by burning the plane down to protect themselves. But now Germans are moving into such areas. By setting off the smoke bomb inside the plane, Nikolai and Ivan are able to make their getaway. Nikolai is injured by a bomb and passes out. Ivan carries him to the river. Upon realizing that the Germans are chasing them, Ivan casts Nikolai as a lifeline by having him float down the river on an iceberg while he fights off the enemy. Shortly thereafter, Nikolai wakes consciousness. As he wakes up, he notices German soldiers gearing up to shoot him. After being shot in the leg, he runs for cover in the woods. Nikolai builds a fire in the woods so that he can keep warm during the winter. By night's fall, Nikolai has finished drying his clothes and is getting his last weapon ready. In order to determine how far it is to Moscow, he pulls out his map. Nikolai and Olga's reunion 1 month after her robbery is shown in a flashback. When Nikolai sees her, he gives her some food and supplies. Similarly, Olga is concerned that Nikolai may not have enough food to stay alive. Since he is a pilot, he says, they have enough food and water to last for a while. Olga declines, but Nikolai is persistent. They exchange names, and Nikolai gives her the bag with the food and the missing handkerchief. Nikolai has been locked away in enemy territory for 3 days and is already hungry and thirsty. Nikolai survives despite the heavy winter by scavenging in the woods. Having a cold on top of everything else is making him miserable. Nikolai is attacked by wolves while resting in the midst of the forest at night. He pulls out his revolver and fires at them instantly. The wolves that attacked him the night before return to chase him the next day as he makes his way through the cold forest. He is making his way to the German base when suddenly more attacking aircraft swoop down on the area. When a German soldier ducked down under the trunk Nikolai is hiding under, the Russian pilot almost gets spotted. Nikolai fatally shoots the soldier just as he is about to call for help. With the deaths of 3 German soldiers due to the airstrike, tensions between the Germans and the Russians have further increased. While looking over the bodies of the fallen soldiers, the senior lieutenant notices the peculiar marks left by a pistol caliber shot to one of the men. He recalls the missing Russian pilot who has been hiding in the woods for several days and believes the man who killed the German soldier is hiding nearby in their camp. Recalling Nikolai and Olga's strolling moment back at their town, Nikolai tells Olga that he and his gunner are traveling to Tushino to pick up their new fighter aircraft, an Il-2, which they will use soon on their mission to attack the Germans. Seeing as how they are the test pilots for the new model's initial release, he also assures Olga that more are on the way. A Black Death bird, as the Germans refers to it. Meanwhile, Olga walks by a poster and tells Nikolai she works as an actress-singer at an opera house. The idea that she is a trench digger has crossed Nikolai's mind. Even though Olga is a famous opera singer, Nikolai has never been to an opera and is therefore unfamiliar with her. Nikolai requests that Olga show him the opera house, but she says they can't do it until the war is over. Nikolai had been struggling for his life for 10 days before he finally spots a frozen fish in the river, which he eats raw. On his way into the woods, he once again spotted the wolves hot on his trail. Now that he's hungry, he's losing too much strength. As he tries to escape the wolves, he falls into a trap and is nearly severed in half by a sharp branch that lies just below the opening. He decides to burn the dangerous wood in an effort to get rid of it, but the smoke from the ensuing fire quickly overcomes him. After exhausting himself and running away from the wolves, Nikolai passes out from lack of oxygen. During a flashback to when Nikolai and Olga were just beginning to get serious about each other, they are sharing an intimate moment. They made a commitment to each other's affection. From that day on, Olga assures Nikolai that he will never be alone again. Nikolai has been holding onto his last weapon for this very purpose, and he is really considering using it to kill the wolves. But the herd is too hungry for fresh meat to bother. As a result, a wolf jumps into the hole and makes an attack on Nikolai. To protect himself, Nikolai shoots the wolf with his handgun. As luck has it, a passing guy named Blacksmith rescued Nikolai from the woods. He tells Nikolai to bury his head in the horse hay and stay out of sight. Blacksmith warns him to keep quiet if he desires his own life. On their way, they encountered German soldiers who were out searching for the missing Russian pilot. The Germans are curious about the man's weapon and ask to see it. On the contrary, he claims that he has never had a firearm and that he instead utilizes a sharp piece of wood he made himself whenever he has to take out a wild animal. As a result, the German soldiers are puzzled since they think the man is on a wolf hunt. Blacksmith returns to his house and is greeted by his wife. A curious woman opens her husband's baggage, expecting fresh meat, but instead finds a wounded Russian pilot. The Good Samaritan couple helps Nikolai recover from his wounds at their house. The family realizes Nikolai's danger and hides him from the pursuing German soldier in the cellar. Blacksmith is concerned with getting Nikolai back to his country without endangering him, and he never even had a second thought of helping the injured pilot. The family's history reveals that they originally come from Russia but have been permanently based in Germany for quite some time. Then, German soldiers barge into their homes, bringing a worn Reaper with them as a weapon. The Germans almost catch them when they hear the wailing of the injured pilot. Blacksmith acts as if the rats in the house are nothing to worry about. German lieutenant draws his weapon and fires into the cellar where Nikolai is hiding. Thankfully, Nikolai quit making noises, and the rats appeared. The Germans are still looking over the house when one of them recalls seeing the man's wife carrying a bowl of soup from the other tiny house. Blacksmith's son-in-law and a member of the Red Army named Misha had already dragged Nikolai out of the house as the German soldier returned to the chamber. Blacksmith, his wife, and his daughter are killed by German soldiers who torch their home and hang their remains outside the gates. The Germans, on the other hand, have discovered proof that Nikolai is being returned to the woods by the son-in-law and Misha. An unexpected snowstorm hindered Nikolai's journey, unfortunately. The pair abandons Nikolai and flees from the approaching soldiers. The senior German lieutenant has located Nikolai's body. However, Nikolai fires his revolver first, striking the senior lieutenant. The German soldiers respond swiftly to the sound of gunfire by heading in that direction. A dead German is discovered next to Nikolai's body. Fearing blame for the German soldier's death, the son-in-law tries to inform them of Nikolai's whereabouts while Misha presses on toward their Russian allies. Despite their exhaustion, Misha and Nikolai press on with their journey. Misha successfully brings Nikolai back to the area where the Germans and Russians exchange fire. In the end, Misha and Nikolai join the Russians. After trying to rise up and join his friends, Misha is shot dead. Nikolai is taken to the hospital and ends up alive. He wakes up and immediately requests a drink of water. He hasn't eaten in more than 2 weeks. Nikolai is taken aback to discover that both of his legs have been amputated. He may be home safe, but he still has nightmares about what happened in the woods. However, since then, Olga hasn't heard from Nikolai, leaving her feeling utterly devastated. Olga is unexpectedly performing in the same facility where Nikolai is recovering. When Olga first gets there, she has no idea that Nikolai is already inside the premises. Nikolai is intrigued by the music coming from outside and tries to crawl to the window to see Olga perform. He can hear Olga's sweet voice but cannot move. He makes another attempt to crawl but has no more strength left. He never gets the chance to see Olga. After several days, Nikolai is visited by his surgeon and is given a chance to have improvised feet temporarily. He regains his strength to pursue Olga again. He is even given the opportunity to have prosthetics for his missing feet with the help of American soldiers. Day by day, He tries his best to exercise and be back to his old self. Nikolai and the other recovering soldiers are taking a walk outside the facility when he spots Olga visiting a nurse who is a major fan of the opera actress. Nikolai is too embarrassed to tell Olga why he has been gone for so long, and the two of them never really talk about it. Unfortunately for Olga, the surgeon seated on the bench reveals the truth about Nikolai. She learns from the Russian surgeon why Nikolai's legs are severed and how he fights to return. This triggered an instant pang of shame in Olga, and she returned to Nikolai for an embrace. Now that he's recovered, Nikolai can go home from the hospital. He and Olga are reunited. For whatever reason, Olga is saving some of Nikolai's belongings, and in doing so, she comes upon the map he used on his journey through German territory. Nikolai notices a letter addressed to the parents written on the back of the map. Instinct told him it was from Misha, his savior. Ultimately, Nikolai gives Misha's parents the letter. Misha is the son of Nikolai's surgeon. Once his prosthetics are in place, Nikolai says he plans to return to his former career as a pilot. The surgeon strongly opposes his verdict. As far as the Red Armies are concerned, Nikolai is still an active pilot. Nikolai is back again to their mission. He is flying an IL-2 aircraft to destroy the German base. Nikolai and his gunner are being chased again by 2 German aircraft along the enemy's territory. His mission is to destroy the bridge where he has been unable to do so before. The movie ends with Nikolai successfully returning to his base camp. Despite the challenges of being a disabled person, Nikolai gets a huge salute from his fellow pilots and soldiers for his achievement. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more videos like this and help the channel grow.